welcome back to Sham's Makeup Artistry. Obviously, I'm here after a long time. Today, I'm going to film a foundation review and also I'm going to apply it in front of the camera for you guys. And the foundation that I'm going to review today is by Shiseido, and Shiseido is a Japanese brand, and this is their Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Foundation, oil-free foundation in a broad spectrum of sunscreen SPF of 30. This foundation retails at $47 and there are overall 30 shades in this foundation range, and my shade is 430 Cedar, and I have been using this foundation for some time now. It's almost been like a month or so that I've been trying out this foundation, and I will share my thoughts with you as I apply the foundation over my face area. If you want to see the entire review, please stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So usually for my foundation reviews or even first impression, I tend to use face primer with it because I do not apply any foundation without a primer. So it doesn't really make sense for me to do a review without applying a face primer. So for this foundation, the primer that I've applied on my face is from Kevyn Aucoin, and this is their Neo Elixir Weightless Beauty Oil. The reason I apply a beauty oil is because my skin is super dry and the weather is super cold, so my skin is more to combination to dry, and it's been really dry on me, so I tend to use like a beauty oil or a primer that is much more moisturizing than a matte primer, if that does make sense. If you tend to have an oily skin, then probably you can use like a matte face primer. So for me, this works the best. So you can see my voice can get really squeaky. I've been really unwell lately, so finally I got into filming this video for you guys. It's been some time, and the foundation that I'm going to review again today is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Foundation. It's an oil-free foundation with an SPF of 30. There are about 30 shades overall in this foundation range, and the foundation retails at $47, and I picked out the shade 430, which is Cedar. This foundation is said to be like a self-refreshing foundation. I don't know what's the technology behind it, but since Shiseido is a Japanese brand, you know that they're all about technology and very creative. So it says that liberally apply 15 minutes before sun exposure. Use a water-resistant sunscreen if you're swimming or going to sweat throughout the day. Reapply every 2 hours, which I don't really do. I don't know why they mentioned that children under 6 months ask a doctor. Like, I don't know why they even need a foundation. Like, a 6-month-old baby doesn't need nothing. Like, I don't know why it's mentioned here though. So it's the Shiseido's first in foundation that refreshes non-stop. Active Force technology synchronizes with skin and helps to resist heat, oil, humidity and motion for a fresh, natural finish that lasts all day, 24 hours, where flawless, weightless, comfort, medium and buildable coverage. So now, since I've already applied the face primer, I'm going to apply the foundation. It does come like in a pump version, but the uniqueness about this particular foundation is you can actually seal it so that you don't get the product out, and then when you want to use it, you just have to shake it well. It's pretty watery in consistency, and you just have to switch it this way and then pump it at the back of your hand. So I'm just going to do one mini pump, and I'm going to use my new brush, and this one is from Chanel. So I haven't used this yet. It came with a different foundation, so I'm just going to try this brush with it. I personally like using a brush with this foundation because it's much more like a light to buildable kind of foundation. If you use a beauty blender, it kind of absorbs the product like very much, so I don't like using it with a beauty blender, if that does make sense. And I like to pat this on my skin. This foundation kind of looks a little bit deeper than my very own skin tone, slightly deeper, but I'm still comfortable with how it looks like, because once you have applied the concealer, it looks totally fine, like to highlight your face area. And I can't really find like a shade to match my skin tone exactly in this foundation range, so this is the closest that I could get, and I'm an NC45 in MAC for your reference if you just need like a kind of reference for my skin tone. I have been really liking this foundation, like for an everyday kind of foundation. Even occasionally I have been really liking it. I like how natural it looks on the skin, at the same time looks very refreshing, like how it actually claims. So I'm just going to take a little bit more because I just want to focus on my cheek area where I do have like a little bit more marks that I'm actually working on. Whenever you work on a spot, another one kind of appears, so it does take a little bit more time to heal from the acne marks. I'm a person that do not like to apply foundations underneath my eye area, but with this one I really like it because it does melt into the under eye area, and then I do not need to use any kind of correctors with it. I just go and apply like a lighter shade to highlight those areas, so I kind of like that. So pretty much for my skin, I just use like 1.5 pump. Not really even like a one whole pump, like a half, so it's much more like a 1 pump of foundation, and it gives a pretty good coverage. And I do not like a full coverage kind of foundation for every day, so this one definitely does like a more to natural finish. You can definitely layer this foundation and still it doesn't look cakey on the skin. This foundation does also come with like a concealer, which I haven't like given it a try. I probably will do, like since Sephora is offering like what, 75 off 25 or something right now, like for a holiday kind of sale, so I'll probably just check it out. So this is how the foundation looks like on my skin right now, and obviously for me, I have been really liking this foundation. I have no complaint over this foundation. The only thing I felt like if I could have gotten like exact match for my skin tone, but I really couldn't. I tried to locate it online and I found that this was the closest match, and I also watched tons of reviews on this foundation, and I realized that if I'm going to pick up one shade lighter, it's going to look very light on me, or one shade deeper is going to look very deep on me. So the shade Cedar is actually a balanced tone for rich tan skin, and it has a neutral undertone. With me, I do have more of like a neutral undertone. I do not have like a lot of yellow or pink going on with my skin. So sometimes if I pick out a foundation which is yellow, it looks too yellow on me, and then sometimes a pink one looks too pink on me, and sometimes it looks really red on me. So this one again is the closest match that I could get myself. They do also come with like a face polishing brush that you can use this foundation with. For me, this brush that I use is good enough, and I also like using my Real Technique buffing brush with this foundation. So these are the brushes that I would prefer using it against the Beauty Blender with this particular foundation. So let me just do my entire face, and then I will share my final thoughts on this foundation with you. So now that you can already see how the foundation looks like with the makeup over my face area, I have to tell you guys that I have been really enjoying this foundation. I find that this foundation wears very beautifully on the skin, and it lasts throughout at least 8 to 9 hours throughout the day. I haven't worn it like for over 24 hours to vouch for the 24 hours wear, but I've worn it for the longest hours that I've been out. I've worn it for occasions, and I personally find that it really looks beautiful on the skin. It looks like you have like a flawless looking skin. You guys know that I love my Dior Forever foundation, so this has to be the next one to my Dior foundation. And many of you have also been asking me how I like the Pat McGrath foundation. I still haven't been able to come up with like a final verdict of it, because I just can't seem to make my mind over the Pat McGrath foundation. So that's the reason I haven't do like a full review on it. But with this foundation, I have been really loving it. I find that this foundation is such an easy wearable foundation. You don't have to work much with it to like get it blended in on your skin. Obviously, it shows your flaws through. Sometimes like I do have like a spot right here. It does show through, which I personally do not mind. Like for an everyday, I do not want to cover up my skin. Even occasionally, if I have spots here and there, I'm totally fine with it. So I personally do like this foundation and how it looks on my skin. The concealer that I used to highlight my face area with this foundation is from Giorgio Armani, and this is their Power Fabric Concealer in the shade 7.75. So this is pretty light for my skin tone, so I only use this to highlight my under eye area, my mouth area, and then I just use whatever that is left over. I blend it over my nose and also a little bit on my forehead area just to highlight the face overall. And this is another concealer that blends in really well with this particular foundation. So obviously I want to try out the Synchro Skin Concealer, but I haven't given it a go. But with the foundation, it's definitely a very good foundation in my opinion. If you like more like a natural finish, like a medium coverage, you are not a full coverage kind of girl, you may want to try out this foundation. If you are a person who likes like full coverage foundation, you do not want any of your flaws to show through, then this might not be it for you. I personally would say that you can layer this foundation. It doesn't really look cakey on the skin. Many a times we don't want to keep layering foundations on our face area. Like for me personally, I either want it to be like full or medium or light. That's it. Not like keep layering it to get the coverage that we personally need. So this foundation does turn oily like after certain hours on my T-zone area. Is usually where I tend to get shiny, but it's not like overall shiny that I have to keep blotting my skin. Again, this foundation does look very natural when the shine actually shows through your skin over the hours that you have worn this particular foundation. So the Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Foundation by Shiseido is a go-go for me. I do hope that you enjoyed my talk through kind of review today. Till my very next one, stay beautiful, bold and stand out. Give me a thumbs up, share all your love and support, and do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Goodbye.